That the report of the Manager of Economic Development dated May 2nd regarding an update on the city's Place Band project be received for information.
Moved by Councillor Borden, seconded by Councillor Bonnell. Discussion? Councillor Bonnell, Councillor Walters.
Am I on? Am I on now? I'll just reiterate, perhaps we could get the staff member to give an overview of his report. Following up on the meeting that occurred here on April the 9th, 6th, whenever it was, there was many concerns were raised about, I think the report captures two of them, but it doesn't capture the finance question that was raised. When members were wondering, of the community were wondering how much council had put aside to this branding initiative, and I believe we should be providing a budget estimate of what we've anticipated it for this project. There's discussion about having some structured public information meeting and doing some public gathering of comments and views online and other means, so perhaps I could hear from the manager on what they're proposing there, because I don't see an exact date for when we're going to see this happen.
Okay, so I'm going to call on the Manager of Economic Development.
So just to summarize the report fairly quickly is that the resolution from last month was to communicate to the public about the place branding process, the rationale, the process that was used, some of the results. And so what we're proposing is utilizing the existing project website, which seems to have picked up a little bit of traction since the first brand concept was put out into the public. In addition, utilizing local media to drive people to that site, but we'll also be looking at, we don't have a firm date, but just, I guess if council was okay with this process, then we're going to probably shoot for the last week of the month. And in terms of the financial aspect, there didn't seem to be any appetite for additional costs, and to a large extent, much of the project is complete. So the branding company has agreed to or offered to work with us to gather additional input and look at some new slogan ideas, those kinds of things at no cost. So in terms of budget, I guess the only city financial issues will be just staff time.
Sorry, and just in the 2013 budget for under the Bs and other projects, we had allocated $50,000 for branding and for 2013.
Yeah, a combined activity area of marketing and brand implementation, as well as some other projects. So some of the costs, if we need to, could come out of that. But other than staff time, we don't anticipate anything.
So that $50,000 was an overall budget for economic development?
That was not overall, but that was a big for
chunk. Branding and
yeah, that was for marketing, okay, and including brand implementation. But back to the process, is, as I said, communicating out more information about the brand project, how it's done, why it's done, etc., as well as trying to get people to participate a little bit better this time around. So there's obviously a little bit more attention on the project. So we anticipate that people will engage. We'll be responding to some of the comments that we already did receive from people during the last month, to let them know that we will be having an information meeting about why we're doing it, how it's done, etc., and for people to offer up their ideas about what they like best about Williams Lake and what we should be putting out as the key messaging.
Okay, thank you. So questions, Councillor Walters?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Alan. Just so that I've in conversations that I've had in the community, we're using in communicating out to the community. We're using the web as the base, as the web page, and for people to respond to and comment. So that's, And then you're going to have, are you still going to be working with the committee? Is there going to be some
Yes, yes. So the process would be get some public input, bring that input back to the advisory committee, which would look at, for example, some new brand language, particularly the slogan or the tagline. The committee would offer some insight on that. We would then put those tagline or that new language back out into the public for a period, and look at whatever kinds of results or input we get from that, again through the website, and I guess not to diminish other forms of communication, but again, the web and social media was pretty well utilized for public discussion about the brand last month, so we anticipate that that's still probably a pretty good conduit.
Okay.
And again, that would help us minimize costs, so we can utilize the city page for contacting the media and so on. So again, to keep dollars under
Right.
wraps.
So, and again, this advisory committee was made up of, 12, 14 people from a broad range of people from the community. So can you talk a little bit about the sectors?
Yeah. What we did is we picked individuals that had weren't necessarily representing any one particular organization. They were people that were involved in Chamber of Commerce and Rotary and service clubs, with the idea that if you pick individuals like that, then they have the ability to disseminate that information to those broader networks. Yeah, I guess in addition, utilizing agents or individuals that could be partners in delivering our brand. So again, a Chamber of Commerce, a university person, construction association people, folks that would be trying to attract workers or investment dollars. So right out of the gate, we've got some immediate partners that can help us roll the brand out.
So final question. So is there an opportunity for the public, if they wanted to really get involved, to express an interest to be a part of this committee, to approach you and if there seemed to maybe be more of an appetite for that, or to get involved, so that just if there was maybe perhaps, that interest, could they sort of approach you and ask you if there was an opportunity, or do you want to stick with that committee group?
I guess there's always an opportunity to look at something like that, and the point of having a small committee wasn't to be reclusive or non-inclusive.
Right.
The idea was that if you look at best practices in brand development, you don't have large committees typically utilized, because you end up with no consensus, because there's so many different ideas, and not that you don't want to. The idea is you get all the ideas from the public, and then you come up with something and then put that back out to the public and say, what do you think of this?
So the committee members would then go out to the public and...
Yeah, and that's why I say we'll look at gathering input, come up with some new brand language, put that back out to the public again before anything is finalized.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you. Councillor Rather.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would not be supporting this whole issue. Reference to the communication, I think enough communication was done on 9th April. The writing was on the wall, written solidly. I haven't come across except one email in favor of this whole issue. We have spent pretty close to $45,000 in the past. And now I'm just told $55,000 budget. I supported the budget, and pretty soon another tax bylaw coming. That doesn't mean that we should spend this money. I hope council step back and take a cold glass of water and think again. Do we need to spend this kind of money? Madam Mayor, how could it be? I don't understand more clear when you're the 4 former mayor and 1 senior council member for a few terms, and the hall being full here. There was hardly any chair vacant, and 92% people against it, plus and minus. I don't know what more communication I need to do. So, but we are in the democratic process, and if there's more vote in favor of, it will go ahead. But my request would be to my colleagues, think carefully whatever you do, but I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rather. Councillor Borden.
Well, I just want to speak contrary to that. I think just because we've identified that we need to do a branding, and just because we meet some resistance, I don't see that as a reason to throw it out the window. What was clear coming out of all of the feedback that we got was that the one part that was consistent among everyone was that they didn't like the word republic. Otherwise, most people identify with the effectiveness of having a brand, the reason to have a brand. And the fact that we have the consultants doing work without additional expense to the community, I mean, at this point, I can't justify throwing away $40,000 over a bit of staff time for us to find a resolution and better this. It's like all good things. I mean, your second draft will always be better than your first draft. Our first draft was not popular, right? But the second draft, I mean, we've got the input, go through a second round, get a different type of input as well, and come in and sit down and come up with something better. I can't see giving up on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borden. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in, I guess. Throughout all of the public conversation, I don't really recall many people saying that we are against branding. It was about being against the tagline. And also I think that people felt that they didn't have the opportunity to give the input that they would have liked to have contributed. I think that there needs to be some balance brought forth to the branding project, which is not only who we were and who we are, but who we are going to become. Because the whole point of the branding is about our future. And I don't think anybody would contest that everybody sitting around this table is concerned not only for the residents that are presently our residents, but are also our future residents. So I just wanted to say that, I'm not against branding. I am, the previous proposal was not my cup of tea, but I do think we need to move forward, and I really think that the residents would trust us with that if they were allowed to put their feedback in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bonnell.
As long as everybody's had their first kick at it, I'm going to try again my second time around if I can, Your Worship. I appreciate the report, the update, and the opportunity for broader community input into the whole process here so far, and I also recognize that there's no additional costs to the municipality other than staff time. But I do believe that we're missing a key component of information to make the public more informed about the initiative, is because it started in 2012, and what we've got budgeted in 2013 isn't what we're talking about right now. It's what occurred for the cost for 2012. The 2013 budget is for implementation of the strategy once we get it into place. Well, we haven't got it into place yet. So I think you still need to have a breakdown on the budget expenditures that we had set aside for 2012 so everybody can clearly see what expense has been spent where for what. What we anticipate to do with the future on the implementation will be dependent upon whether or not council finally adopts a strategy and moves forward on it. And we're not there at that point yet, Your Worship. So I'm just asking that that information be thrown into the mix as well, so that everybody can get a clear understanding of what we're dealing with and understand what we've started with in 2012 and where we may go in 2013 and beyond if we do in fact finally adopt a strategy.
Thank you. Councillor Zacharias.
I just wanted to make sure that that point was made. I think we're just asking for background information to be brought forward on how we came to the financial, budget for the first, flushing this out, the design of it. And then there is, again, the budget to implement. So just so that we could make that clear to the public. And I don't know that we've really, had that out as part of the report of, how we came to the first, whatever that 40,000 or, through the B strategy. So just as part of the background to the, to the report and going forward, that we make that clear how we, how we approved that and what we approved and what we've used and what is going to be used going forward once we, get to the point where we can implement it after, we have consensus on possibly a tagline, revision and I agree. I've talked to many, many people about this, and people are not opposed to the branding project. They understand, what, the driving factor is for the future, and that's a very good point. There was just resistance to the tagline, but a lot of people really liked the posters and the concept and the ideas. So I think, it's be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I think we need to finish it.
So I will be speaking for receiving this report, which is all the motion is before us, which was what the resolution was at the last meeting when this was discussed. I think it's a really important piece in moving forward in being able to attract not only business and investment, but people to relocate to Williams Lake, building on our strengths. So as I said at the public meeting, or at the last meeting, 90% of the branding work I supported wholeheartedly. The issue that I had problems with personally was the Republic of Life in the slogan, and what we heard loud and clear was the lack of opportunity that people felt to provide input. And so we've taken a step back. We're opening that up, and that's what this report is. We want to encourage people who are very passionate about their community, that's a positive, to provide that input, to provide their recommendations and suggestions, so that we can, as Councillor Hughes said, start thinking about our future and what that's going to look like, which I think is really important. And so people can get involved. We're using the webpage. There's a survey on there. And this is just the very beginning of the process, as Councillor Bonnell said. We haven't adopted anything. We haven't moved forward. We still have a number of steps to go along that process. And so at this stage, we want to encourage people to get involved, continue to get involved. We have received lots of input to this date. I know I have. And the majority of people, I know I had a lot of discussions that people didn't even understand what the branding concept, why we were even doing it. And once they understood that, they seemed to support that. There was only a very small percentage of people that didn't think we should be spending the money at all. So I'm in support of moving forward, and so I will be voting for receipt of this report. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add one other thing with the education component. I think that maybe there's a little bit of a notion out there that we think that this brand is going to just be the end-all be-all for Williams Lake and just bring all these people. And I just really want to share with the public that it's one piece of the pie, and there's many initiatives and lots of hard work going on for succession and retention. So this is just one piece of the pie.
Right.
It's sort of the icing.
So
Okay.
that's a really good point to clarify, and I'll just call on our manager.
Just in relation to the last comment, that's probably one of the biggest points that I would make, and I think I may have mentioned it in the report, is this is just a basic tool. This is just one thing in the toolbox that we have to work on economic development. It's just, if you don't have some basic purposeful branding and marketing language to utilize when you're trying to bring people here or educate people about the positive things about Williams Lake, then it's pretty hard to do that job. So this isn't, we're not going to do a brand and have a logo and a slogan and some ads and everything's going to materialize. It's just the start. And so I'd just like to also offer, in terms of Councillor Bonnell's questions about budget, is once we get this strategy done, then we can kind of lay out exactly what particular things we're going to do with that marketing budget and brand implementation. But some of the things would include some hard copy print materials that we could share with employers, so that when they're trying to attract people, we could all be utilizing the same types of materials. Some web-based advertising, because that is very effective in this day and age, according to all of the sources that I've looked at, and that obviously comes with a cost. So essentially, those are a few of the things that we would be looking at. Thanks.
So thank you. So we'll call the question. All those in favor of receipt? Opposed?
Like to
So
be
noted.
recorded. Thank you.
Okay, so that carries. Moving on to item C2D, Chances Signal Point Gaming, application for changes to liquor primary license.
Pursuant to the report of the Manager of Legislative Services dated May 2nd, Council recommend approval to the changes of liquor primary license number 301740 as contained in the applications from Chances Signal Point Gaming located at 1640 South Broadway Avenue and the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch.